This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragon Gate is, how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragon Gate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, as always, Jesse Collings, and joining me once again, he is a multiple-time returning guest to the show. He is the host of the Flagship Wrestling Podcast. He is our Brazos Valley correspondent, and like me, he is currently a fan of a last-place baseball team. It is Joe Lanza. Joe, welcome back to the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast.
Brazos Valley. Busting out a Brazos Valley reference. Okay. All right.
I actually looked up to see if College Station was considered East Texas, and the consensus was that kind of, but not really. So I didn't want to say East Texas. So I was like, okay, what's like a better term? What's a more accurate term to describe College Station's location within Texas? And so we went with Brazos Valley.
Well, that's 100% accurate. It is, in fact, the Brazos Valley.
This is a podcast that takes geography extremely seriously, and I want to get that at least as right as I possibly can when we discuss people's locations.
Well, you nailed it.
Thank you.
But I almost didn't come on this podcast. I almost told you to go kick rocks, because at one point I was neck and neck with the most frequent guest in the history of this particular podcast. But you've forgotten about me over the last 2 to 3 years. And quite frankly, that was a little insulting to me. So, but here,
counterpoint, Joe. How about you take a little initiative and suggest yourself for some of these podcasts? How about you invite yourself onto this pod?
I should just be inviting myself onto podcasts.
That's how I get it. That's how I recorded my first podcast with you. I invited myself onto the podcast.
Is that really how that went down?
Yeah, remember our NFL Intelligentsia first episode where I was like, "All right, when are you gonna upload this?" And you're like, "Wait a minute, I'm recording this." I'm like, "Yeah, it's your show."
Oh, was that your idea, the NFL Intelligentsia? I don't even remember.
It was my idea to join you on the show.
Oh, to join the
And you thought you were doing like my NFL podcast, but the whole time we were really just doing yours.
Yeah, I really got worked with that, huh?
Yeah. So I'm saying you could come on this show. Honestly, I all my fans hate you. No, just kidding.
Well, a lot of them probably do.
Some of them might. I don't just get different guests on the show, and I come up with a topic, and I think about who would be a good guest for the topic. And this week's episode is about TV wrestling, and I who watches more TV wrestling that I know than Joe Lanza. You're keeping up to date with all these different promotions, watching on television, and you have to give reviews and things like that. So you're the perfect guest.
What a terrible thing to be known for. Who do I know that watches the most TV?
Who do I know that's got no
American
life
yes.
and just has like dozens of hours each week to pour into American TV wrestling? Joe Lanza.
Yes. If I'm the first thing that pops into people's minds, then then this is a terrible thing to be known for. But here I am.
And also, we've talked about this before, and we'll get into it. And I guess we'll get right into it. So I guess my general thesis towards this podcast is TV wrestling is a historic staple of wrestling. It dates back to like the 1940s, or at least weekly wrestling, to the early 50s with the Dumont Network. It might have even been airing somewhere prior to that. But TV wrestling goes back to almost like the ancient times of the wrestling industry. And for a lot of its history, it was viewed as kind of like this bonus kind of thing that wrestling companies would do, where the bread and butter was live tickets, and then you could use your TV program to advertise yourself to get people to go to live shows. And for a huge portion of history, it was like that. And that changed in the 80s, and TV wrestling became a weapon during the cable wars into the 80s and 90s that WWF used. But we go back and talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling and Black Saturday and all that kind of stuff. And we currently stand here in 2026 where television wrestling has never been more important to the bottom line of these wrestling companies. It is the number one revenue driver for the largest wrestling companies in the United States. It is the really, in a lot of ways, the pivotal difference maker between like a company like AEW and a company like MLW. Is the standard of their weekly television and what network they're on, how much money they're getting, what does the product look like? It's so vital to the wrestling industry as a whole, is your weekly television show, filling up those content hours for those networks that are desperate for live programming. On the flip side, culturally, here in 2026, the idea of watching a live weekly, episodic television series has feels outdated. It's not in line with the way most people, or a lot of people, especially younger people, consume, you know, television shows and content in general. Like Joe, you have kids. Do your kids watch any like shows weekly, like at the same time every week that's on live?
No.
Right. It would almost be like a foreign concept. Like, all right, we're gonna watch a show, but it's only on at like, like if your kids like it's the new episodes are on at like 10 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Right. Yeah, no, they
Like,
don't do anything like that.
yeah. And do you yourself watch any television TV shows live, like on a weekly basis at the time that those episodes air?
As in, okay, it's Wednesday at 8:30. I have to lock into insert show here, that sort
Yes.
of thing. No,
Yeah,
I do
that's
not. No, I do
yeah,
not.
that's not wrestling or live sports, right?
No, no, I do not.
I don't think there have been shows sometimes when they're on. Really, if I'm like watching, there's a couple shows I watch with my roommate, um, that like we'll get into them. Uh, but other than that, it's basically not doing that. Yet the wrestling industry is hinging on the idea that the person is going to tune in to TNT or TBS at 8 o'clock on Wednesday night or Saturday night, or they're going to turn on Netflix on Monday night to watch Raw, or they're going to turn on USA on Friday night to watch SmackDown and watch these programs live. And the entire industry is based off of that concept, when culturally we have moved so far away from it. And I find that really interesting because in addition to trying to what it leads to is that in addition to trying to get wrestling fans interested in their product by producing storylines and cool characters and having matches that people are interested in seeing, they're also kind of fighting this general pop culture societal practice that is moving away from watching weekly episodic television like that. And I just find that kind of fascinating that it's TV wrestling is so important, yet all of our habits are moving away from wanting to watch television product like that.
Well, I think that wrestling might be similar to the types of shows that people still watch on a weekly schedule, though. Your what I like to call modern game shows, or what used to be
Hmm.
called reality shows, like your talent shows, like America's Got Talent, or American Idol, or something like Survivor. Right? I consider those like modern game shows, but some
Yeah,
people
pretty
call them
much.
reality shows. Right? I think that those type of shows, people are locking in Wednesday at 8:30 to make sure that they see it on its live airing or its original airing, because there's a water cooler aspect to it. You want to go on social media and talk about it in real time. You want to be able to go to work the next day and talk about it. And I think wrestling more slots in with those type of shows than it does a 30-minute sitcom or a 1 hour police procedural drama or something like that, where there might not be that same you might not prioritize it in the same way, because people still do discuss shows like that in real time, I guess, on social media, but not to the same extent that they would something like a Big Brother or Survivor or American Idol or something like that. So I think wrestling is more like those show, more similar to that type of programming than it is to, I think, what you kind of had idealized in your mind there, like is Joe tuning in every Thursday to watch his favorite sitcom?
Yeah, I guess my point would be like those shows that you're talking about, like your America's Got Talent,
Yeah.
or you're talking about like these network shows that
Hmm.
like, are those attracting the younger demographic that these entities are that interested in? Or are those, like wrestling, kind of also battling this upstream, they're trying to swim upstream. Um,
I think overall, all of television is
yeah.
battling finding younger viewers. But I think in the context of other television shows, those shows always finish near the top in the ratings, which are categorized by the 18 to 49. So, but so in their own world,
Mhm.
in context of television, yes, they are drawing younger viewers, but television as a whole obviously is losing younger viewers. Yeah.
As someone, and I can speak for myself, and it'll be interesting seeing what you think. Like, as someone that has largely stopped watching television like on a consistent time basis. I have my favorite shows, but I kind of watch them whenever I want to watch them.
Yeah. Same.
Um, I don't, if I'll know like, oh, a new episode comes out, the episode is uploaded to my favorite streaming service at like 10 p.m. on Wednesday nights, but I might watch that like on Saturday or whenever I have a minute to watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
As someone that watches most of the other things like that, I find like now, like trying to watch Dynamite each Wednesday to be like if I were to watching it live, like to be like way more of a task because it's now inconvenient to the rest of my lifestyle. It has nothing to do with the quality of the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to do with like, oh man, all right, I gotta carve out 2 hours to watch wrestling.
Boy, you are speaking to my soul. Yes.
Right. And part of that is just largely because I don't watch anything like that. I
Yeah.
watch sports like at their designated time, but sports have off seasons, sports have, you know, natural rhythms and like what's more important, what's a skippable kind of thing. It's hard when you're just like, all right, gotta watch Dynamite. And like, I sometimes, this is gonna sound really like bad, and I feel bad kind of saying it. I'm sometimes a little like annoyed when I find out like Collision was really good because I'm like, all right, I have to watch this Collision. I don't know how I'm gonna squeeze that into my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're really only watching one American promotion.
Yeah, like the producing episodic television. It's why one of the reasons I think that in the last 15 years people have got into Puro is because you don't have to watch it every week like
Right.
that.
Right.
Like New Japan, as to use an example, kind of like not talking about the New Japan product at all, but just as a
Yeah. Yeah.
format, is really easy to watch all the stuff that matters and skip all the stuff that doesn't. And it's in a annual schedule where like during G1 season, yeah, you got to be locked in. There's going to be a show every day. But
Mhm.
then after what is the November pay-per-view called these days? It used to
I'm
be
horrible at
it
that.
used to be
So you're
called
asking the wrong
Invasion
guy.
Attack, but I don't think it's been called that in years.
Uh,
Um,
Destruction.
Nah, Destruction's in the spring, I feel like. But anyway, the November pay-per-view that neither of us
Power
can
Struggle. Is it Power Struggle?
Yeah,
Maybe?
the November pay-per-view that a big event that neither of us can remember, despite the fact that we have a combined about 30 years of wrestling podcasting experience.
Right.
Um,
Good job out of us.
yeah. Um, and, like after that's over, you can kind of just like tune out until Wrestle Kingdom, unless you really like the tag league. But I guess, and that's I think part of that appeal is that it's not like that. But like the idea of like watching wrestling now, even when it's good, feels like a chore because we don't watch weekly television like that anymore.
Yeah, it is destruction, by the way. But yeah, I think with the Japanese promotions, they're very easy to watch because it said any Japanese promotion really, even if you're talking about All Japan or Noah or whoever,
Hmm.
you've got your big tour ending show, and realistically, if you wanted to keep up with any of these promotions, you could just lock in on those 10 to 12 tour ending shows and you're good. Toss in a cork in here or there that looks interesting to you, or a random title match that happens outside one of those big tour enders. And how much time is that really committing? Really, like one weekend day a month to like keep up with it. So I guess that's really speaking to your point. Um, but circling back to Dynamite, yeah, there's absolutely weeks where I see it as a chore Like I'll be watching a Reds game or something on a Wednesday night, and I'll remember that I have to watch Dynamite after the game, and I'm like, oh fuck, I thought I was home free tonight. I forgot Dynamite's on, and it's like you shouldn't really ever feel like that if you want to watch something. Like you should always be
No,
excited for it.
And I'll reiterate, although I thought this week's most recent episode wasn't good. Dynamite's been like really outstanding.
Really good. Yeah, really
like
good show.
It has almost nothing to do with the quality. Now, if it was bad, it would almost be easier because it's like I don't need to watch it. It's bad. It's not going to entertain me. Write it off. Whatever. I can get away with that.
Which my situation's a little different. I have to watch it no matter what. But yes, absolutely. If I wasn't in that situation, I agree with what you just said. If the show was going through a period where I didn't like it very much, or even some weeks where I was into the promotion, but I just like I had that feeling of dread, like I would skip it. And I totally understood what you were saying when you're like, oh, like it's a bummer when you find out Collision is good or has something that you have to see, because now you have to, because here's the thing with wrestling versus other shows that you might be watching on streaming later. You almost have to watch it in somewhat of a timely manner just to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, versus... if you want to, and the other thing is like if you want to, like you and I are both obviously huge people to do this. If you want to engage in like discussion with other people and produce content related to it, which is essentially the major driving force between why I watch wrestling now is basically because I've got this whole like thing going on. And I like going to the Discord and talking to people and talking about wrestling with all these people that I've met. You kind of you're right, like you can't just like put it all off and then just be like watching it 6 months later and be like, guys, I got some takes on the Dynamite from February 13th. It's just like it doesn't work like that.
You can't consume wrestling like that. I don't even think. Even if you're not super engaged online, I don't think you can consume wrestling like that, because there's going to be monthly pay-per-views and things that you can't, like, for instance, I have a really good example of what you're talking about. I'm currently catching up on The Bear, but I just started season 3. Like season 4 is over. I just started season 3 because there's no, I had no reason to prioritize that in my life. I didn't have to. In fact, with a lot of the shows that I like, I wait for a couple seasons to be over, because then I know when I'm in the mood to watch, I can bang it out in a week if I want to. I'm so spoiled by what we have now in terms of modern consumption of television that I'm annoyed if I have to wait a week for an episode. I'd rather just let it all play out and then watch all of it at once when it's convenient for me. You cannot consume wrestling that way. You just can't. I mean, I think if you're consuming wrestling that way, you're like a psychopath. Who's watching 6 months of wrestling as like a binge watch? And like, that's crazy. Like, so
first of all, if you're watching, talking about like a 2-hour block of programming each week, the sheer hours of it would be like difficult. The easiest way to watch it is once a week.
It's more akin to sports in that way, because I don't even understand people who like can record a game and then watch it 2 days later. Like, to me, that's psycho behavior. Like, the game is over when it's over. And me personally, I've never watched a recorded sporting event. I can't do it. I'm not built for it. Like, if I can't watch a game, but I'm emotionally invested in that game, I'm paying attention to it on my phone in some way. I'm keeping up with the score. I can't not know and then say, day and a half later, let me settle in on the couch and watch this NBA Western Conference Final Game 4. I can't do that. I don't understand how people can do that.
I don't have like the patience with myself to be like, if I'm doing somewhere, like I can't watch this game because I've got this commitment that I can't get out of. Like I'm checking updates during the game. Like I'm looking at my phone. Like there's no way I could just like go dark for days and then find the result. And once I find out the results, like I'm not gonna really want to watch the whole game.
No, if I know the final score of a game, then there's nothing less interesting at that point than watching that game. Who cares? I can't.
I guess if it was like a game and like my team won in like a huge blowout, like be like, all right, let me just watch this. Like, let's watch like the Patriots kick the shit out of the Raiders or something like that on this game I missed. We won 48-10. But like if it was like a
Yeah,
close game, I would just be like, let me just like fast forward to the end. And if we lost, forget about it. I'm not watching that shit.
no,
But I
I
know
mean,
what happened. Like,
I've definitely gone to like YouTube for a highlights package of a game
oh
we
yeah,
missed. I mean, that I think, but to sit there and watch a whole game when you know who won, I mean, that's like watching porn when you're not horny. Like, what's the point? There's like absolutely no point to that. That's like leaving porn on after you've completed your task. Like nobody does that. You can't turn it off fast enough. Like there's no, it becomes something that was titillating 5 seconds ago, and now it's just kind of gross to watch it now. That's like watching sports when you already know the score. It's gross. Like,
yeah.
well, what am I doing? It's a complete waste of time.
I've like tried to watch, like I'll miss one of my soccer team's games and then I will try to watch it. And then it'll be like 30 minutes into the game and I'll be like, "Hey, is my team gonna score? I don't want to watch this and my team never scores and we just lose. Let me just check what the score is." And then once I know the score, I'm like, all right, let me just fast forward to the goals. And then I watch the game in like 2 minutes and then I'm done.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't have the patience to like sit there and watch it like I'm watching an actual game live.
Yeah, so I mean, bringing that back to wrestling, I couldn't even imagine just well, I've got 3 months worth of Dynamite on my DVR. Let me bang this out. I can't imagine anyone consumes it
Some
that way.
people do watch stuff like that.
Wrestling though, I don't. Man.
Well, I feel like you talk about that sometimes. Like if you're gonna catch up, like you might catch up like for like get ready for like a big Dragon Gate show. You'll be like, all right, I'm gonna watch like these 8 Dragon Gate shows.
And I do that with TNA a lot too. But again, I think you have to like I'm a different case because
you're doing that for like so your list. You feel like you have some trust with your listeners when you start talking about it.
Yeah,
not because you're
exactly.
like I'm really excited to watch it.
It's work. Like I have to know what I'm talking about. Like if I didn't have to review Slammiversary, I wouldn't watch three months of TNA TV to prepare for it. I would just watch the fucking show like a normal person. You know what I mean? But I feel like if people are gonna pay me to discuss something, I should know what the hell's going on and I should be able to intelligently discuss it. And that means having the context of the build and all of those things. So I think I have to be set aside a bit when it comes to sort of that sort of way of consuming wrestling.
Yeah, I really I don't watch Dynamite live hardly ever. I almost always watch it like like Thursday morning or like Thursday evening. I
Yeah.
have like just I had a during the winter time I have a basketball league that I'm in that it's every Wednesday night like right at Dynamite time. So I usually like just like watch Dynamite like the next day. Um and then sometimes I'm home and like I'm ready to watch Dynamite. But I watch it very rarely live now, which is probably bad for like AEW viewership, but like it would be when I do catch it live, I'm like, oh, I gotta sit through these commercials. I gotta sit through this segment I don't really want to watch. Like it becomes like more annoying than I would like to think, given that I overall, pretty much greatly enjoy the product.
Yeah. If it's baseball season, I am never watching Dynamite live. It's just not happening. Wednesday's never an off day for baseball, obviously.
Well, it could be getaway day.
That's true. They could play a day game, but
Yeah.
even so, I would rather have because I just have for 6 months in this house, baseball is if there's a baseball game on, it's on a TV somewhere. I watch. It's not just the Reds. I just love baseball. So baseball season, I'm never watching Dynamite live in the fall and the winter. I'm also usually not watching it live because that's the time of day where I'm cooking dinner for my family, where I'm spending time with the kids after school and where my wife comes home. And that's kind of like family time.
Yeah, I mean that's basically me. Like I'm living my life and doing stuff. I don't like it's and then that's we basically don't watch outside of live sports, don't watch any television like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of back to my original point, which is like we're conditioned to like not this stuff, and you just have more options. Like I think like you can go back to the 90s and the 80s and prior to that, like television was what people watched at night. It's what people did. Like at 8 o'clock on a weekday night, like 90% of Americans were watching television or some sort of insanely high stat. It's not even close to that now.
Yeah.
And that has to because our society and all of our lifestyles have changed.
Well, especially if you strip it down to live network or cable television,
Yeah.
then the numbers become even smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, most streaming stuff is not live,
Right.
which is a factor in this, right? Like I watch Dynamite on HBO Max using their replay feature. Like I'm watching one of their other shows. Like I'm not
Yeah.
watching it live. I'm watching it when I feel like it on demand, just like I would watch like an episode of Game of Thrones or like an old episode of South Park or something like that.
Well, then, okay. So what's your kind of thesis here? Do you think that wrestling promotions should adjust to the way most Americans live their life now, or are you saying they obviously have to continue being slaves to the television and television advertising
Mhm.
industries because that's the lifeblood of their
Yes.
economy?
That's my point, is that wrestling is dealing with a society that's moving away from consuming their product in the way that is by far the most lucrative. And in fact, the only reason it's so lucrative as it is today is because of the idea that wrestling as a live sporting program is something that's more immune to, the habitual watching of other shows.
Yeah, yeah. So then it just like I said though, if they see it, if it's seen more as a reality show or
Hmm.
sports and that people are prioritizing watching it live, but I think wrestling does exist in that weird space where some people do see it that way and feel like, no, I have to watch Dynamite live. If I don't watch Dynamite live, I'm going to be behind with my friend groups, and I just love it so much that I want to watch it live. That's that factor too, and or more so than a sitcom or a show. I don't know.
But
We have to figure out where wrestling settles in that.
neither you or I just watch Dynamite live, and we're like psychos.
Yeah, but there are, I can guarantee you there's people listening to this right now who would find it absurd to ever miss Dynamite live or their favorite wrestling show live unless it was a commitment they absolutely could not get out of, in the same way that I would find it patently absurd. I would never just be in my home doing nothing and there's a Reds game on and not have it on. Of course it's going to be on. I panic when I'm like, oh shit, the Reds are starting in 3 minutes. And I'm like running to a TV to make sure I get it on. And there are people who consume wrestling promotions that way, where it's a huge part of their life and it's super
No, and
important.
I agree. I was just using us as examples of like
Yeah.
pretty like hardcore wrestling fans, and even us are like, we don't really need to watch that live.
Yeah.
And
But
like the idea of trying to attract, and this is always the funny thing when people talk about casual fans and things like that. The idea of getting like, a 25-year-old to be like, yeah, watch this wrestling program live, like make sure you're never doing anything at 8 to 10 p.m. East Coast time ever again or if you're Raw, whatever time, Raw, whatever show you want to talk about, like getting somebody to commit to that is going to be even more difficult than it already is going
yeah,
forward.
what do you mean, like moving it to Raw to Netflix?
No, I'm saying like say my friend is kind of into wrestling, and I'm like, yeah, you should watch Dynamite.
Oh,
I
see.
Like
Yeah.
make sure you carve out 2 hours every Wednesday night to watch it live, and never do anything else again with your life. Um, and like someone who's not like really, really committed to it, but is maybe sampling the product or likes a few wrestlers or is interested in one match or one program or something like that. That person it's going to be hard. It's a hard sell to get that person to commit now so much time to it. I think it's one of the big problems WWE's had on Netflix. It's just the
Yeah,
idea
it can be
that
a lot. It can be a lot. And I think all of the shows are too long, but I think everyone acknowledges that they're too long. I think if you look, WWE had to be dragged kicking and screaming into that third hour by a giant pile of money. They didn't want to do that. If you ask Tony Khan and he, and it was just you, him, and the lamppost in the room, he'd probably tell you he doesn't want to do. Well, maybe he does because he's kind of crazy. But like, I don't think 2 hours is the ideal length. Definitely not for Collision. and not for Dynamite either. I mean, I think these shows are too long, but you have to follow the money. They're paying. This is where they're making their money. The WWE syndicated shows in the 80s were not 2 hours long. They were not 3 hours long. They were 1 hour long because the money was in pay-per-view and house shows.
Yeah, and they're essentially it's basically an advertisement for people, either the pay-per-views or the house shows.
Right. So
Like
the
you do
only
some
reason
squash matches, and you do one, match that ends in a double DQ, so that then you can theoretically see the blow-off match at whenever they're coming into your city.
Yeah, so these promotions are a slave to the television money in multiple ways because these wrestling shows do excellent numbers for these networks. And WBD wants 2 hours of this shit every Wednesday because it's 2 hours of solid ratings that nothing else is going to give them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and unlike sports or any other type of television, it's on 52 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have an off season. It theoretically has a very consistent, or at least a base level floor for viewership. People, those people that are going to watch every week, no matter what.
Yeah, well, look at WBD when the NHL and NBA playoffs are going on. They still want that extra hour of collision from Tony, come hell or high water, whether he has to tack it on Wednesdays as a third hour, whether they have to put it on in the middle of the night. They're going to find a way to get even that second hour of collision because it's so valuable to them.
Which should also kind of be used. That's a great point, and it should be used to dispel any future rumors WBD is very upset with.
Yeah, this is a different gentleman's wrestling podcast topic, but I think that also is our awful habit as pundits in wrestling, paying too much attention to people who either aren't in good faith or just are ignorant, and we just can't help ourselves to acknowledge these people and their awful points. And that's a completely different show that you might invite me onto at another time.
Oh, I think and I think that concept has shifted from, we spent too much time talking about them. I feel like years ago it used to be, we talk about these like grifters because we were mad at them. And now people talk about them because they just want to dunk on them and make fun of how stupid their points are, which is definitely the category that I fall into.
I also think there's the idea of, man, this account that calls itself at AEW Eat Shit 69X, they got 400 likes for this ignorant point.
That's the dumbest thing, especially knowing what we know about like social media engagement.
I agree, but I think there's this psychological thing where it's like too many people think that they're making a good point, so I have to quote tweet them, and look, we are all guilty of this. This is not me absolving myself.
Yeah.
Or there's a psychological thing where you're like, oh no, we can't let this become the truth. But the reality is it's just 400 other extremely stupid people like at AEW Eat Shit 69X. I mean, so we shouldn't care.
During my AEW fan survey, when I talked to the fans who had started watching AEW in this past year, one of the things I was most interested to hear about was, I asked them basically, what kind of narratives or things did you hear about AEW before you started watching? Were you aware of like things people had said about the product being bad or not telling stories or anything like that? And all of those people said, like, some of them said they had no idea, and then the other ones who said, yeah, I heard it, but it was like very obvious that it was like, not a good faith criticism, and there was no way the show could be that bad, and blah, blah, blah. And I found that very heartening. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, but just to know that, like, actual people are not really being swayed by this notion.
Yeah, you have to trust that there are some people that are just smarter than we think they are when it comes to
there are dumb people out there where it's frustrating to think, like, this person maybe could have been, a fan that watches other wrestling promotions, but they listen to Eric Bischoff or insert whoever annoying
some
person
people
is.
just cannot be saved, and that's a lesson Dave Meltzer will never learn. And it's also, some people can't be saved. And here's the other thing, as Canada ties the game, some people don't.
Oh, a spoiler! Oh, you're like a minute ahead, like 5 seconds ahead of me.
Am I ahead of you?
Yeah, you said that, and like Kyle Aaron was just getting the ball. and then he scored. So I that was like a 5-second spoiler.
Well, then I will be more cognizant of that for the next 20 minutes of this World Cup contest, which also pulls the curtain back and reveals when this show was actually reviewed or was actually recorded.
We will be talking about the World Cup later on this podcast. Don't you
So
worry. I need all your takes, Lanza.
you're gonna get them. I've been locked in.
I can tell you're locked in. You're ahead of me.
So there's some people who can't be saved, but the point I was gonna make is there's also people who don't want to be saved.
No, not at all.
They have no interest. It's just a game to them. There are people who wake up in the morning, they crack their knuckles, and they're like, all right, how can I shit on the wrestling promotion I don't like today? And what can I take out of context? What can I spin? How can I fight this battle of who could care less today? How can I do that? That's what these people are doing. They don't want to be saved. They don't care about facts. So there's no point countering them or quote tweeting them. And you have to try to fight the best you can this psychological urge of, oh, well, this is what everyone thinks. No, it's just 400 other very dumb people who can't or don't want to be saved. Anyway, that's not even the topic we're talking about here.
It's not. But there's some relevance to that. But I'm thinking like the casual fan, like we talk about Raw on Netflix all day. Like, so this week, a bad rating came out, and I've seen both Brandon Thurston and Dave Meltzer. While they have slightly different opinions, they have or kind of thoughts on what the actual viewership total is. Both of them have come out and stated that they think that it's reasonable to believe that Raw was getting more viewers on USA than it was on Netflix.
Yeah. I don't know how that could even be disputed at this point, even if you do your own back of the envelope math and aren't even as deep in the weeds as those two guys are.
Yeah. But it seems that leads to a lot of different things. And obviously Raw going to Netflix was a huge kind of moment where we're I said on this podcast, like, I don't really know what to expect. We could see WWE explode in popularity because it's on Netflix, the thing most people are watching, and it's going to be in that Netflix carousel, and people are like, oh, I guess I'll watch Raw, and it's going to attract a younger demographic and all this kind of stuff like that. Or it could be breaking with tradition, and a lot of people that were regular viewers on USA Network aren't going to feel like they're going to want to watch on Netflix, aren't going to make the effort to watch it, and it's actually going to hurt the company. And now that we're, what are we, 18 months into this? We're going to start Netflix this year.
Last January, wasn't it? It wasn't this January.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So we're 18 months into it, and it kind of feels like Netflix doesn't really mean anything for the WWE product. And if anything, it's more towards that latter case where it has broken the weekly wrestling tradition for some fans.
Yeah.
And they've moved on. And the fact that they have less viewers than they did on USA kind of seems like implausible when you consider like all the discussion about where viewers are going. Cable's bleeding viewers. Netflix is bigger than cable. More people have Netflix subscribers than our cable subscribers, blah, blah, blah. And yet we're now sitting here where WWE is now seemingly, at least Raw, is less popular in the United States than when it was on network or cable television.
About a year and a half ago, a very, very smart and insightful wrestling pundit predicted this.
Yeah, I can't say I predicted it. I suggested it as a possible outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I felt this was a definite possibility because WWE fans watching WWE wrestling on a Monday night on their television, whether it's USA Network or for a brief period of time, Spike TV or whatever the fuck, and then back to
TNN,
USA.
the Nashville Network.
Right. Was, there's a habit that's formed there. It's what you do on a Monday night, much in the way that Dynamite has not been able to corral us in making that what we do on a Wednesday night, like we just talked about. WWE did, in fact, cultivate that habit for decades with their fan base. Monday nights, prime time, that's when wrestling is happening. And that's when I turn on my TV and watch. And people said, all right, well, it's no big deal. Now they'll just turn on Netflix and do the same thing. And I didn't feel like that would be the case. I just think that as silly as it sounds, there is that extra barrier of picking up that other remote, the remote for your Fire Stick or the other remote for your TV, tracking down the app, which all of this sound like the most first world problems that there are, but those things are real. And then, watching something on an app, which you almost feel like you're walled in because there's that aspect of streaming that they have yet to perfect. And when they do, that will be the death knell of cable. You can't channel flip. And that sounds frivolous and silly, but it is a real thing where people feel walled in.
Huge thing when we talk about Raw.
Yeah, and because there's always other sports going on a Monday night, no matter what time of year it is, especially during football season.
Yeah, you could see it during like when we used to get more reliable quarter-hour data. Like, Raw would always do good for the first 20 minutes before Monday Night Football would be on, and then it would go up during halftime on Monday Night Football because people would be back on Raw, and they would even book portions of the show around like what's going on. Like, okay, when they go to at 90 or 9:40 when they go to halftime, that's when we'll put on one of our big angles for the show.
Yeah, and I just think not even specific to Mondays with wrestling. I mean, that's a big barrier for people who, and particular sports fans mostly, who don't want to feel walled in, because no matter what anybody says, and you can scoff at this, it's a fucking hassle to press back on that remote, get out of that app, go back to your cable or go back to a different streamer to check in on the other thing, then wait for the buffering wheel, and then do the same thing, and then 3 minutes later to get back to the wrestling. It's just, people aren't going to deal with it. No. And what I think is happening specifically with Raw and Netflix is, for a lot of people, first of all, this idea that literally everyone has Netflix. Well, first of all, that's false. Yes, a lot of people have Netflix, but not everyone has Netflix. Okay, so let's start there, because you can't just flippantly throw that out there. I'm not saying you're doing that, but people did that when it was moving to Netflix. It's going to be great. No, they don't. Not everybody has Netflix.
No, I think it's probably shifted a little bit more in Netflix's direction, but like around the time of the switch, I think around equal amount of people had cable as Netflix.
It was close. Yeah, it was relatively close for the purposes of this discussion. And the other thing is, no matter, just people don't have to believe this if they don't want. I'm confident that this is true. There is it broke the habit, because mentally, if you know that it's on Netflix, okay, versus it being on USA Network, even with even with DVRs existing, it's still a mental thing where it's like, oh, it's on Netflix, I can watch it later. It's always going to be on Netflix. It broke the habit of, this is what I do on Mondays at 8, and it was going to break that habit. Now, look, for the most hardcore fan, you're never breaking that habit. They're going to be locked in. You can you could air it on fucking Crackle, and they're going to find it. They're not going to miss it no matter what. But for a decent chunk of the audience, I always felt that this was going to break the habit for them. And then once you miss a week, and then don't bother watching it on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and then the next Monday comes around, and you're like, I missed last week. I could miss this week. I'll read another recap. Now the habit is broken. And now you're either almost never watching, or you're no longer watching at all, because it doesn't take that long to break that habit. And I think moving to Netflix versus moving down the dial to another television station, which is also always a fear, right? That's always been a fear. Even as much as just moving down the dial has caused wrestling shows to lose viewers. Television shows moving nights historically has always been has made showrunners very nervous, because people are creatures of habit, right? Maybe they like watching your show Wednesday at 8, but if you move it to Friday at 9:30, now you've fucked up they do something Friday at night, and now they're not going to go out of their way to watch your show. Moving to Netflix, I thought, was going to be a big habit breaker. I felt that way. And to me, that's why there's less people watching Raw in the United States, because I think that's the effect that has taken place.
Yeah, I think one of the things I was really interested in when they were moving to Netflix was your typical Netflix viewer or fan views Netflix the exact way you described, which is it's on-demand viewing for whenever you want to watch something.
Yes.
That's how Netflix, has largely built its brand, and it's the habit that all of these people are in. there's obviously that floor of hardcore fans, like you said, they'll find it no matter what. You could air it at 4 a.m., like you said, on Crackle, um, which looking at wrestling fan demographics, you might start airing it on Crackle. Um, but they would find it. But you have all these other people that are like, yeah, I can watch it later. It's on Netflix. Or like Netflix to them is not how they viewed cable television. Those are a lot of similar people, but there's different audiences in general. And if the Netflix audience is younger than the cable viewership, which I think it almost certainly is, um, you're also getting those people who we talk about culturally not going to really be interested in watching something like live all the time and sitting through a bunch of commercials and things like that. I have never watched Raw on Netflix. If you watch Raw on Netflix after the fact, do you have to sit through the commercials?
Yes. Well, you know what? I don't want to definitively say that. I think it depends on your plan.
Yeah, so if you have like the fancy, absolutely no ads plan.
But my real answer is I don't know, and I shouldn't say anything.
Because when I watch Dynamite on HBO Max, I go right through those commercials.
Yeah, the ads are there for Dynamite for sure. And again,
they're there, but I can skip them. Like
you can, yeah, it fast forwards pretty quickly. And if you want to hear the most massive first world decision-making process ever, I always choose my DVR over Max only because it's slightly easier to fast forward through the commercials on my DVR than it is on Max. That's how I'm making my viewing decision.
Well, you historically have had some trouble finding Dynamite on Max.
That's because it was categorized awful in an awful way until they corrected that. I mean, it was terrible.
I never had a problem finding it.
All right, well, I mean,
you know what's a big problem with the streaming era is that people love to talk about the discussion that we just had a second ago, which is like, everyone just projects whatever their personal experience is and then like discounts everyone else's. Yeah. Like we talked about this, like when they had, this is more like when AEW, when people would buy their stream, they were using the Bleacher Report, like pay-per-view app or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I personally never had a problem with it. It was very easy for me, but everyone would say, "Oh, it's so hard," and then I'd be like, "Oh, you guys just are doing it wrong, you dummies." But like, obviously, it's just a different experience for everyone.
Yeah, I love the person who goes, "Well, I don't have cable, and nobody I know has cable." Well, first of all, you're lying. You know somebody who has cable. Second of all, yeah, you're 23. Of course, none of your friends have cable. We all know eventually nobody's going to have cable, but there's millions of people who are 40 who have cable. There are millions of people who are 60 who have cable, and they are people. They count. They don't not count as people.
Yeah,
it's like you just extrapolate your experience to that must be everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I've never paid for a cable bill in my life.
Yeah,
I have my parents' cable like login accounts that I use to watch on smart devices.
Yeah.
And then we have like in my living room, we have a big TV. And like most people have in a living room. But my roommate, we have a Roku, and my roommate has her parents' DirecTV login on that. So I just open up the DirecTV app on the Roku TV, and I'm essentially watching DirecTV.
Right.
So it's like I don't have cable, but I'm certainly watching stuff on cable and have access to cable, even though I myself am not personally paying for the cable bill.
Right. But yeah,
I get those like LA games too, which seems kind of like a dangerous workaround to like I can watch all the Dodgers games I want without paying for
Why is this a roommate? Is their parents from LA or something?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're getting their right. So you're logging into their Los Angeles. You get their Los Angeles.
Yeah, it thinks I'm in LA. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
It's pretty sick, actually. Sometimes late at night, I'll put on some like late night baseball when there's no live sports on, know, around here. It's like, all right, time to check in on Jose Soriano and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do think though, like that the Netflix viewer is a little bit different than cable viewer, and even regular cable viewers view Netflix differently. And the idea
there's a psychological aspect to it.
Yeah. And the idea of like, I'm gonna lock in to Raw every week for a variety of reasons. And I think, not being able to switch channels is a big one, because Raw has always been a lot of filler. It's a few big stars and then a bunch of people you really don't care that much about. And it's kind of bad for like the casual fan argument, like your Royal Rumble to WrestleMania type of WWE fan.
Yeah, that guy absolutely does not want to be walled in for 2 hours and 20 minutes on a Monday night.
Yeah.
That guy is never going to be walled. And that's a great point.
Like the idea of like, and part of the idea was like, oh, this will be good because we'll like turn on like the casual fan, right? We'll get on the Netflix carousel. Netflix will do this huge advertising push for us. We'll get all these people that, have never watched wrestling before, or they're really lapsed fans, and we'll get them to watch, just like the idea was that when they were going to be on Fox, that was going to be the case, and it ended up not being the case. But like the idea, we're going to reach all these kind of new or lapsed people. But that person that's like watching Raw, you could start Raw if you're like someone who hasn't watched wrestling in a while. You could start with like a really hot angle or something cool. But as soon as something bad happens, and on Raw, stupid shit's going to happen a lot. That's going to be offensive to the average viewer in terms of anyone with like a smidge of intelligence. They're going to be like, this is kind of stupid. I'm going to turn this off. And they're not going to flip back, 20 minutes later,
right.
Which they might have
No,
done.
they're going to, the football game is going to catch their attention.
Yeah.
Or the
Or if they're
basketball
on
game
Netflix, they're going to start watching something else that they want to watch, and they're going to be walled in there.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be like, that's all right. Let me see what, the latest Netflix show of the week is.
Yeah.
There's always one of those too. Some Netflix show that has 10 episodes that everyone talks about and then forgets about.
And when you talk to people in the streaming business, they recognize that they have to solve the channel flipping problem. I mean, that is like problem number one that they need to solve right now.
Doesn't that seem like more of kind of like a smart TV functionality?
I mean, it all works hand in hand, but someone's got to figure it out. I mean, that's going to be the point of no return for cable.
Yeah.
That's when cable is dead.
It's also something that's only really pertinent to live television or a live event that you're watching, though.
Yeah, well, mostly, but I mean, there's still people who, they get bored with things and they want to flip around and see. Sometimes when you're watching TV, you're not necessarily locked into one thing, even if it's not something live that you're watching. It's just, but again, to me, it's all psychological. You don't ever want to feel walled in. That's what is the barrier is for me. I don't want to feel walled in a lot of the time. I'm only going to watch something on streaming if it's my only option. If something is streaming and on TV, I'm putting it on TV. And that really is most sports now, because I have every app under the sun. I pay for everything.
They got you.
Yeah, I'm a person of convenience, and because I'm lucky enough, I guess, to have the means, I don't want to sound like a piece of shit.
No, you've been on this. We have to realize, Lanza, that you have no life outside of watching television. So these are actually
none at all.
So this is actually you're actually spending way less money.
Yeah, but seriously, like, I have every streamer you could possibly have, just because my mindset is I don't want to ever not have something and then say, oh, I can't watch this thing because I don't have this thing. No, my whole thing is I'm just paying for everything and I'm just going to have everything. So when it comes to sports, as you know, most of this shit is now simulcast both on TV and on whatever associated streamer, right? Whether it's if it's ESPN, it's going to be on ESPN Plus or ESPN Unlimited, go right down the line.
Yeah, Peacock, Paramount Plus.
Peacock with NBC, right? Yeah. Paramount Plus with CBS. So every single time, if I have the option between it's streaming somewhere, this game I want to watch, or it's on TV, I'm picking TV because of the walled in aspect. I'm always watching it on TV, even if I know the picture might be a little crisper on the streamer, because I'm choosing TV because I want that ability to get out more easily if I want to. I don't want to feel walled in. And also because I don't even want to have to deal with a potential buffering wheel. I don't know what anybody else is doing in the house. Everybody's fucking on the internet doing something, streaming. I don't want to even deal with 10 seconds of a fucking buffering wheel or a streaming issue. TV's more reliable, and TV doesn't have me walled in. And I think when streaming figures out those things, particularly the channel flipping, that will be the death knell. Sports fans are basically keeping cable alive. Let's be honest about it.
No, and that's one of the reasons wrestling has been so valuable to these cable companies, with that being the idea.
You give me reliable sports where I don't feel walled in, I wouldn't have cable either. But I can't live without cable. I can't.
Also, ironically, like sports, which keeps cable alive, but also teaches you to like tolerate commercials
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
degree. Like your kids who aren't watching that much live
yeah.
television. Like I've heard this with other people's kids, so I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if your kids are the same, but like, what's
Oh
a
yeah.
commercial? Like, what's
Oh yeah,
this?
yeah.
Like,
When they're a little more emotionally mature because they're a little older now. But
yeah,
the first time that like I put on Nickelodeon for them because like the internet was out or whatever the
yeah.
case. Here,
We
watch
gotta go back to
SpongeBob.
the Stone Age. Let's
Right.
see what's.
When they were like toddlers
Yeah,
and a commercial came on, they would point to the TV and cry.
yeah. Like it went
Like
away. Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like make this go away. Like why can we skip it? Like no. You just have to sit through it. This is live TV. Like you can't explain that to a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
from an
But
economic perspective, like we just tolerate that commercials are a part of it in a way that some people don't tolerate with like their favorite streaming shows.
yeah, they weren't born into that shit. They don't want to deal with it. When they're watching YouTube, they're waiting for that. They got the remote in their hand like we all do, waiting for that 5-second timer to go down. And
So the World Cup has these hydration breaks, which you've
mm,
noticed if you watch the games.
mm,
Typically, soccer games don't have that. Um, and they've had them in the past for games that are played in hot weather. It's kind of standard. But since soccer is mostly played in winter months, it rarely happens outside of America. But like for just for the World Cup, it's the first time I've ever seen it. Fox is showing commercials during these hydration breaks. Usually it would just be like a 1 or 2 minute like thing, and the commentators would kill some time and they'd show some highlights and things like that. But now we're going to commercials, and it's killing me because
mm,
soccer, one of the great things about soccer is that there's commercials before the game, there's commercials at halftime, and there's commercials at the end of the game. You don't have
yeah,
constant break to commercials like in every other American
there's a
sport.
commercial right now as you're speaking.
And they like the TV executives must have been slapping high fives and doing
Yeah,
chest bumps when they found out about these hydration breaks were going to be incorporated because like, oh, we could throw some commercials right in the middle of the
yeah.
games. That's rubbing their greedy capitalist palms together.
Mm.
um and it's because, but I guess the point is like I'm used to not watching commercials in the middle of a soccer game, and now there's commercials, and it's making me more upset than if in a any other sport I
You're
would
like
just
a you're
tolerate it.
you're you're like a toddler
Yeah,
watching
I'm
Nickelodeon for the
pointing and
first time.
crying about the
Yeah,
game being turned off because I'm seeing this. I'm also, it also hasn't helped that they seem to have the same like 5 World Cup commercials. I've already
yeah,
seen this Timothy Chalamet commercial like 7 times
yeah.
uh already, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a long tournament because I'm already tired of seeing the Chalamet commercial, and
The
it's not
the
going anywhere
the,
because it probably cost them like millions of dollars to make.
the McDonald's commemorative cups. You've got them all memorized at this
Yeah,
point.
I tell you what, David Beckham is cashing in this World Cup season. He's in like 8 different commercials right now.
Yeah. Well, handsome man,
No, I mean he's
famous
like the most
famous player.
yeah, he's one of the most famous players, especially to American fans. So he's
Yeah.
perfectly marketable for it. But he's like Shaq. He was not saying no to any suggestion ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, make it while you can get it.
I'm sure he's not strapped for cash.
You know they never have enough.
Some people do.
Who? Cite
Uh
sources on that one. They never feel like they have enough.
yeah,
I
this
guess
guy's like Michael Jordan. When was the last time you saw him in a commercial?
there's people who disappear. Yeah. That would be me. We all like to say it would be us, but would it be? Do we know that for sure?
I like to think that it would be me.
I do too.
I actually feel really confident that like if I won like a really serious, like let's say I won $100 million.
Yeah. Well, is that
I
your
would
number?
I just threw out that number. It's probably significantly lower than that. I just threw out a number that I couldn't possibly go through unless I like just did really reckless spending or like, spent tens of millions of dollars on a bad investment. But just like in terms of like just go away forever money, like I
Yeah.
feel like I really wouldn't sell out for money.
Are you familiar at all with Murder Brian from the old Street Fight podcast? And now,
I'm not familiar with like him on a podcast, but I'm familiar with his social media presence.
yeah,
I can
right.
picture
You know
his
who he
like
is, though.
Kirby avatar.
Yeah. You know who he
Yeah,
is the point.
yeah, yeah.
Um, he used to say that his go away and disappear forever number was $200,000. And I always found that so funny, because that's not a massive amount of money, but that's the perfect answer that he would give. Like, just give me $200,000. You'll never hear from me again. And you know what? I believe he can make that $200,000 work. And I totally believe him that is a go away sum.
Look,
but that has to be the lowest go away sum that I've ever heard.
It depends on where you live, I guess.
$200,000.
Yeah,
I gotta respect it.
What time period am I living in with the $200,000?
He said it like 10 years ago.
I know, but the idea is like maybe in like 1910 that would be enough to get me to go away.
Yeah, I think for $200,000, you're not getting rid of me. I'm still infiltrating the airwaves and annoying people. $200,000 a little low. That's not enough. I think I'd keep plugging along. I came into $200,000.
No, you might be able to, but you might be able, you would eventually be able to, if you kept plugging away, you'd eventually clear $200,000.
Well, that's, I'm trying to be humble. I'm just saying, a lump sum even, I'm not.
$200,000 is like 1 month of those Patreon subscriptions.
Although I could stretch 200, I think I'd be very good at stretching $200,000.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm very good at not spending money, to the degree that it's actually hurt me in some ways, because I sometimes have trouble like spending money on myself, and like I'll splurge a little bit, but then part of me will get like lose a little enjoyment because I'll think about how much money I spent on this.
Yeah, Jesse, I don't want anything. Literally, there's like nothing I want. Like,
like in terms of like items, I hate stuff.
I don't have anything that I want. It's so like my wife gets so frustrated, like Father's Day is coming or when my birthday's coming. And she always figures out something clever to do, but it's impossible because there's nothing that I want. Like, I don't buy anything for myself. I don't want it because I can't think of anything to buy. I don't want anything.
I've rented like a lot of places. I've moved around a lot in the last few years. Like, I don't want to have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I like not having stuff. And I'm in an amazing living situation right now where I moved into an apartment, like 18 months ago. I guess it's getting close to 2 years, I guess now. Where like the person who I've been living with had been living there for like 7 years. And so she just has all her stuff like everywhere. Like, and that's fine. Like, dining room table, hers, couch, hers, coffee table, hers, kitchen stuff, hers. Like, and I don't have any of that shit. So I'm like the perfect person to move in and just use all that stuff. I'd be really screwed if she moves out one day because I'm going to have to buy all that shit myself. But I was like, I don't have any of it. I have like my bed and my bureau and my desk and like my like video games. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, circling back, part of the reason I have Netflix and Paramount Plus and ESPN Unlimited and Bloopy and Crackle and Zigzag and all these fucking bullshit is because I don't spend money on anything else. Like, I don't spend any money.
This is what I'm spending my money on.
Yeah, so it's like, I have an extra $12.99 for Bloopy or whatever fucking streamer. So I just might as well just fucking pay for them all. So when I call DirecTV and they're like, "What package do you want?" I don't know. Just give me every channel. I don't care what it costs because I'm not spending money on anything else. People would faint if they saw my DirecTV bill, especially when they know I have every other streamer. Like they think they want to stab me in the chest. Like, why are you spending that? I'm not even going to say the number, Jesse. I'm not going to say the number, especially when you factor in the MLB and
oh yeah.
I pay for NBA League Pass every year. I watch opening night, and I swear to you, I don't think I go back to it again at all after opening night. But in my dumb brain, I'm thinking, oh, it's only $100. Why? It's a no-brainer. I have to buy this because on January 23rd, I might bet the over on Kings and Thunder, and I want the ability to be able to put on the second half and see how my bet plays out. That's how my brain works. I just want to know that I can put something on if I have to. But I can only do that because I don't spend money otherwise. I pay my bills, and then I pay for every form of television entertainment under the sun. That's it.
And provide for your children.
Well, yeah, that falls under pay for bills.
I know, but I just wanted to make it sound.
I'll feed them some gruel and some ramen, and they'll get by as long as I have Bloopy. I have to have Bloopy. See, that's where I prioritize. You never know who's going to buy the Sunday morning MLB game package.
I know, it's so bad.
So you got to be prepared,
Like my friend was asking me, and he was like, "Hey, like my dad wants to watch the Celtics playoff run, which unfortunately didn't last very long, so it actually didn't end up being that much of a hassle." But he's like, what are these games on?" And I'm like, "Well, they might be on ESPN, they might be on Amazon Prime, they might be
Yeah.
on NBC, and they might be on Peacock."
I couldn't believe how deep into the NBA playoffs we were going and still putting games like on Prime.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. And I know you are old enough to understand that too. Like, why is there an NBA Western Conference final game not on a television channel?
Well, yeah, the really so like I was watching the NBC games, I watched those on Peacock, but they're simulcast on NBC.
Mm,
And I really haven't watched until we got to like the finals, and those games were on ESPN, which unfortunate because the NBC and Prime like NBA broadcasts just blow ESPN's away
yeah, yeah.
in almost every way, with the exception of Reggie Miller. Um, and then just watching like the finals with this shit sandwich like ESPN production with it's either the inside the NBA guys with Draymond or Stephen A. Smith and like Mike Breen and Richard Jefferson. It's just awful, awful. And I was like, I can't believe we still got this ESPN shit sandwich when we have spent most of the year with better alternatives. But that's not here or
That
there.
made no, it is. That made me think of a good point relating back to
Oh,
the
great.
topic of this podcast. So I'm thinking about this as you're talking. And while the NBA playoffs are going on, I am a casual NBA fan. You were just talking about casual wrestling fans,
Mhm.
right? I can live without the NBA, but if an NBA game's on, I'll put it on. I mean, I am the perfect
Yeah.
descriptor.
Especially we get to playoff season.
Yeah, I'm a casual NBA fan. There were times during these interminably long playoffs. Can we take one day off for travel and then get back to it, please? But that's another topic for another day. These interminably long NBA playoffs. There were times where I'd be hanging out in the Voices of Wrestling's Discord in the sports channel or texting with my friends, and they're talking about some random NBA playoff game, and I'm flipping around looking for it and I can't find it. And they're like, "Oh, it's on Prime." And then even though I have Prime, I would not put it. I'd be like, "Oh, well, then forget it. I'm not interested." Like I wouldn't put it on. I would rather just I would stick with my channel flipping or the random baseball game I had on or whatever else it was that I was doing rather than just grab that other remote, put on Prime and put on the fucking random Eastern Conference second round playoff game. Because to me, and I have Prime. And I can only imagine how many casual NBA fans who didn't have access to Prime who said, I'm not paying for Prime to watch these playoff games. I'm not a big enough fan. So that could easily relate back to wrestling and Raw and Netflix to where it's like, oh, Raw's on, but I'm not putting on
I'm
Netflix.
not going through the process of using my phone to log in because I got to figure out what my password is.
Yeah, I got to do the fucking QR code that they make me do
Yeah.
every time.
Get the email sent to me so I can reset everything because I forgot. Or
Yeah, and it makes you sound like a piece of shit spoiled brat, but it's reality.
no,
People don't want to do that.
if you're making the casual decision to be like, let me flip see what's on there, which
Yes.
is how historically people have watched television. They channel flip and see. Um, like, and I think like, and just now in general, once you get off of cable and move to streaming, like Raw has, you're losing those channel flippers. That's a huge other part.
Yeah,
We talked about
no
people
doubt.
wanting to like not be boxed in, but you're also missing the people that are just like, well, let me see if Raw's on. Let's see what running Raw. Let's see what
Yeah.
that's on doing.
Yeah, just like the NBA lost a lot of people like me who were casual and didn't need to see whether the Hawks could make that fourth quarter comeback. I'm sure WWE is losing a lot of casual people where if it was on USA Network and they see a tweet, oh, I can't believe, and they can't easily flip to it, they're not going to. They're not doing that for Netflix. And I think all
And
those things are contributing to them doing less viewership now than they were on TV.
the other thing that's interesting is that we talked about people getting out of that 8 p.m. habit, especially in the last few weeks with Raw doing all of these international shows. The shows are just on like at random times during the day because they air them live when they're taping in Europe.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
on at
Yeah.
like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're encouraging people in a lot of ways.
Which, by the way, is great if you're a hardcore fan that wants to be locked in. You don't have to wait. If you're home and you're available, I think that's awesome.
Right. In the old in the old days they would have like you get the Raw spoilers from London
Yeah.
and you know what would happen beforehand and things like that. But they're kind of encouraging you to most people are not going to be around at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday to watch Raw live from Milan. But so you're kind of encouraging people to be like, all right, I'll watch that whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't watch it live. I don't need to watch it at 8 o'clock when it would normally air again. I'm certainly some people do that just because they want to keep the habit going. But it's kind of encouraging people to break out of that super reliable 8 p.m. This is what I do on Monday nights habit, which is a challenge because
100%.
we
Yeah.
talk about it all the time. Like WWE's WWE's product is so bad, they're keeping most of these people based off habit. Like there are obviously the crazy hardcores that are gonna always find enjoyment in watching it no matter what. But most even the regular WWE viewers are not hot on the product. We see that with pretty much every show and every PLE that they have now.
Look, you miss. It's like I said earlier. You miss it a week. You miss it that second week. You realize your world hasn't collapsed in because you didn't watch. The habit is now broken.
You realize in WWE he didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a big factor.
Yeah.
There's nothing on these shows. Nobody talks about it enough.
The FOMO goes away when you miss it.
Even Brian, they review the shows and things like that. Nothing fucking happens on either of these Raw or SmackDowns. When was the last time you heard about a match that people really enjoyed or had huge implications?
Levesque books very methodically. Yeah, it's
the last Raw match that I remember people talking about as a port match was the Braun Breaker CM Punk match in January.
Yeah, you get an angle now and then. You had the bloodline
nothing
stuff.
Fucking happens on these shows, and they're so inessential to the viewer. The difference between Dynamite and Raw in terms of what do you actually need to watch, especially ever since the whole Darby run on Dynamite, you had to watch those shows compared to Raw where nothing fucking happens. These feuds go on and on. They play the same notes. They do these rematches. There is no purpose put in. This is kind of a separate issue than what we're talking about getting out of the habit, but you're really not going to feel it if you miss Raw 1 or 2 weeks because there's almost nothing changes.
Well, do you also think that with the consumption issues that we've discussed regarding Netflix, that's almost enhancing and helping along the alternate ways to consume the product? In other words, if you're someone who just doesn't have Netflix or doesn't want to be walled in, all those Netflix issues that we've discussed, but that on Tuesday morning, you can see the big bloodline angle on YouTube in full. That's got to be pushing the number down as well. When people realize, oh, wait, I don't. It's kind of like the Saturday Night Live thing where less and less people are watching because, and a lot of them know that they're going to clip every sketch and it's going to be there Sunday morning on their official YouTube channel in full. So you don't need to stay up until 1 a.m. or you can go out. You don't have to stay home and watch Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and the best sketches you'll hear buzz about, oh, they did this sketch, and oh, let me check that out, or they had this guest star make an appearance on the
So has Netflix, and I guess it's a rhetorical question, I know your answer. So in effect, Netflix has sort of pushed along the alternate consumption means for watching wrestling, for watching WWE, because man, fuck it, I don't have to pay for Netflix. I can catch all of the shit that I need to catch on YouTube the next day. People were doing that when it was on TV, but I think this is kind of pushing that concept along.
Yeah, I don't really check WWE's YouTube all that much.
They put everything up.
But they put pretty much everything up. I did watch the entire Oba Femi Brock Lesnar match from WrestleMania on YouTube the day after it happened.
You're not getting, listen, they're not going to break out every individual match from all of their TV shows, but here's the thing. Their fans don't really want to watch full matches anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Their fans would gladly watch a 4-minute clipped version of a 14-minute match and have no issue with that as long as you're giving them the entrances.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they want to see.
AEW actually, it changed a year or two ago, but they would upload pretty long clips from Dynamite or Collision or Rampage.
Yeah.
Where it would be 9 minutes and it would be the business end of any match that they had.
Yeah.
So you could kind of like watch any match on Dynamite and you'd miss the opening stuff, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you pretty much saw everything that you needed to watch. And there were weeks where I didn't catch Dynamite live and I look at the card, I'm like, there's not a lot on here. Let me just check out that, Moxley versus I don't know, Ricky Starks match or something like that. Just I
Yeah.
don't even know if they had a match. I just picked two
Right.
names
Whatever.
from
Yeah. Not
2022.
important. Right.
And like let me just check that out. I'm like, I watch that and then be done. And now Dynamite, they're very conscious of that. I think they feel like they every like highlight from Dynamite or Collision or certainly any matches, like it's like a minute that might show you like a piece of it. But if you actually want to like really watch that match, you have to like watch the show. I have to
Yeah.
go HBO Max or on demand or anything like that. I randomly watched an episode of Dynamite because I missed it and I was like house sitting for my parents and they have like on demand because they have cable still.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I watched Dynamite on demand.
Were the
And
commercials in it?
not only were there were no commercials, and like they edited it out like when they would go to break.
Mm.
So you didn't have to fast forward through the commercials like if you
Yeah. Yeah.
DVR'd it.
Yeah.
So the whole episode was, like an hour and 10 minutes or something like
Right.
that.
Whatever it comes out to.
Of just
Yeah.
pure product.
That's awesome. That's the best
It
way
was
to watch the show.
awesome.
That's like absolutely the best way to watch the show.
Yeah. And I was like, this is great. I'm also a sucker for like, I don't know if you've ever caught in like the world feed or anything like that, because then the commentators make jokes and stuff like that's kind of funny during the ad breaks.
I see people talk about it, but I've never consumed it.
Yeah, because you'd have to watch it like off like a scummy pirate site, really.
Yeah,
or use a VPN. That's all unnecessary for me to hear Excalibur and Taz banter.
So I looked this up while you were talking, and for this week's Raw on the WWE YouTube, they have, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 11, 12. They have 13 different clips from Raw. Every single one of them is sub 5 minutes, with the exception of the video titled Full Raw Highlights, June 8th, 2026. That runs 11 minutes. So you can get yourself an 11-minute recap of the whole show. And if that's not enough for you, you have about 8 other videos, 5 to 8 other videos a week, which are all of the key matches and angles broken down into sub 5 minute clips. Yeah. So, I mean, you can consume it via YouTube.
With the Raw, like the product that WWE presents, that absolutely seems reasonable.
Yeah. I mean,
because
you could
the matches aren't that important. Like,
yeah,
you're not really like there to watch the work like you might.
So I don't have any doubt that that's siphoning some of these viewers who have the various issues we've discussed consuming on Netflix. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt that this is affecting the number 2. How can it not be? So it's just easier, and generally, and this is not me taking a shot among wrestling fans. I would think that WWE fans have the lowest attention span and are least interested in the actual substance part of a pro wrestling match. It's perfect for them. So that's got to be a factor as well.
I mean, the entire product is booked around that. For the most part.
And the thing about Netflix, just forget the US numbers. The last from 2 weeks ago, because it's always a week behind the data. It's an all-time low, right? The 2 million quote views. Now people have to understand views, Netflix views, and Nielsen total viewership, not apples to apples.
Yeah, it's a whole chemistry that it's almost worthless trying to talk about. Like, well, if you take the global views, they actually view it like this. So you extrapolate that, like.
But ballpark,
yeah.
The bottom line is this, once again, the 2 million views, which was an all-time, they had their all-time lowest. I forget if it was the worldwide or US ranking, but one was tied for the all-time lowest and one was the all-time lowest, and the smallest number of views. And people can look up how that calculates on their own if they want. Unless you want to go over it, it's your show, buddy. But
no, I'm good.
But my point here is this idea of WWE being this massive global brand is something that they have constantly told us, but never holds up to scrutiny. It just never holds up to real scrutiny, that they're this, to the point that I think maybe, I won't speak for you, but I've spoken about this with Rich many times, to the point even that it has indoctrinated me. And I pay super close attention more than the vast majority of the population, to where even I am always stunned at how little viewership all of this shit does. Whether it's Raw on Netflix, whether it's ESPN airing WrestleMania matches, whether it's Fox after the initial week with The Rock and Brock Lesnar winning the world title, dropping like a stone and leveling out to where Fox has buyer's remorse 2 months into the deal.
Yep.
No matter where they go, no matter what they do, this idea that they're this massive global brand that the entire world is watching does not hold up to scrutiny and is proven false.
Yeah.
No one's watching this shit on a global scale.
It's not even to me that they're like not a global brand. When you talk about like the Fox debut and Joe Buck is going to be reading SmackDown, promos during, football games that, attract 15 million viewers or whatever. Yeah. Or Raw being in the Netflix carousel that the tens and millions of people who open the Netflix app every day are going to see. The idea there was this idea that there were all these potential wrestling fans out there that were going to watch WWE if they just knew about WWE.
Yeah.
Wrestling? Oh, I didn't know wrestling was on TV now. Oh, I haven't watched wrestling in years. Or, what is this? Wrestling? Huh, maybe check that out. Those people don't exist.
Well, here, you know what? I have a counter to that. They do exist because they always try it the first week. SmackDown did that huge number on Fox. Netflix did that huge number their first week.
Yeah, I guess they sample, but the idea that fan has any staying power, I guess.
Well, that's because it stinks.
I think it's definitely because it stinks, but I also think it's because people know what WWE is. They know what the product is. They do know that. They have that kind of global recognition. But most of the population thinks it's stupid. They think wrestling's stupid. They think it's fake. They think anyone who watches it is a complete moron. That's the standard that wrestling has.
WWE and their media partners are really great at getting people to sample it that first time. They really are. Mm-hmm. Because they come out with these huge numbers, but then people watch and they mock it and they see it's the same shit that they thought it was in their head and they go away.
It's never smarter than they think it is.
Right. And so they're really great at getting people to come back and try it. And they're really awful at retaining those people because they never retain them. Not even okay, look, everything debuts higher than where it settles. But wrestling always goes back and essentially settles right where it was. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's always just wrestling fans watching this shit. And it's that up and down cycle of, wrestling fans being interested and not being interested. They do a poor job of attracting people and then keeping them because it stinks. It's this really weird people who don't watch, like when a normal person walks in a room and WWE is on, they think it's the weirdest, dumbest fucking thing. And I think even people in the wrestling bubble like us who don't like WWE even don't understand the scope of that because we're so conditioned to mommy Rhea Ripley looking like a demented mime. It's even normal to us now. But when a normal person sees Rhea Ripley looking like a demented mime with her clown paint and the commentators yelling, mommy, mommy, they're like, what is this? What normal person would ever enjoy this? Is what a normal person's thinking when they walk in the room and see that.
I mean, even good wrestling, the average I don't know, maybe the average person is gonna be like, this is fucking stupid.
Yes.
That's just the way it is. Like,
but when it's WWE and it's dialed to 12 and
yes, exactly. Like, nothing will dishearten you more than like someone walking into the room and they're watching you could be watching like an awesome Samoa Joe match.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, look at Samoa Joe, he's awesome. And someone be like, who's that fat guy? He looks stupid.
Yeah, he's
and then walk out of the room and you'd be like, but that's Samoa Joe. He's like the best wrestler of all time.
Yeah, because you have all the lore in your head, the history, and
you like wrestling. But like your typical person can be that stupid. And like you said, when it comes to WWE, dial it up towards 12.
Yeah. So then then extrapolate, apply that same thing to WWE, and they see Jey Uso yeeting Like, they're like, who is this for? A normal person cannot wrap their brain around somebody watching. Watch me. And Liv Morgan comes out. And they're like, what is this?
Honestly, like the yeeting and stuff, like at first glance, people would see they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like there's a lot of crowd participation. I think like someone who doesn't know anything about wrestling could see that and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think like the stuff you would lose like a normal person on would be like the Shakespeare in the Park bullshit aspects of those matches. That is insulting to like anyone that like actually appreciates real dramatic entertainment.
The long bloodline segments, which these people swear should win Emmys, are the thing that's driving normal people away from this shit because it's so bad. You know, it's like, and whatever the fuck Rhea Ripley is supposed to be, like normal people aren't going to leave that on. You know, So they're great at getting people to try it when they're on a new, and their media partners great at that. They're great at that. And then it inevitably drops like a stone every time.
And we kind of figured that with Netflix, which is like Netflix is going to push the shit out of Raw for their first little bit, and then kind of forget about it. Now, I haven't been a Netflix subscriber in a few years now. Ever since they ended the mail order service, fuck them forever for doing that.
A few years, that would be. Oh, actually, they just ended that, didn't they?
I was the last. I was the last person.
Wait a minute, you were still getting like Blu-rays in the mail?
I was getting DVDs in the mail. I kept the last one they sent to me because they said you don't have to give it back.
Wow. What was it? You ashamed to say?
I will give people $1 million, like I said. No, it was the American Cinematic Classic, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Oh. Like the literal one or the remake?
No, the old one from like
the literal classic. Like you're not being facetious, like the literal classic.
The literal classic.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't saying like, oh, everyone knows, like I wasn't like saying it ironically, like actual cinematic classic. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Still have it.
Right.
Anyway, that'll be like a fun artifact later. The last Netflix they ever submitted, disc they ever submitted, because they were submitting those out of San Francisco, so they had to send them all the way across the country.
Who knew they were still printing DVD? I guess they still are, though, right?
Yeah, there's physical media people out there.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. That's a dumb thing to say.
My hatred of stuff would indicate that I am not one of them. But I know that like my friends, like people my age, are like.
As I was saying that, I realized it was dumb.
Yeah.
Like, you ever have that happen? You're saying something, you're like, oh wait, I'm wrong, but I have to finish the sentence now.
Yeah, and then I just continue the sentence by just saying how dumb I am. We talk about like Raw and SmackDown, and I think that in Dynamite Collision, and like I think it's even harder for like if you're like a TNA and you're trying to get people back into watching, Impact on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
You're facing an even bigger uphill battle because now you don't even have any history. I mean, I guess you have history, but you have no built-in floor, really. If you do, it's so small, it's not really worth any type of economic value. And I think now TNA hasn't helped itself by being a complete clown show operation, but it's very difficult for these. We've seen MLW has tried, NWA has tried. It's really hard to get people to commit to something new. So they have an even bigger challenge than WWE and AEW have in terms of like keeping their fans. It's so hard to build those fans.
TNA had an opportunity. Look, AMC isn't the biggest cable network. We all know that, but it was a massive step up from where they were, right? So they did have a chance to at least capture wrestling fans who may have been disenfranchised with the primary promotions that they were paying attention to, who wanted to sample something else on a channel that, oh, wait, I get AMC. I didn't get, the last network they were on. That was on a higher cable tier or whatever, but I have access to AMC, and there are obviously millions more people who have access to AMC versus where TNA was previously. So they had an opportunity to capture wrestling fans who were going to come sample them and maybe think, you know what, this is a viable alternative to what I'm watching, or I don't feel like I get enough wrestling because, either I'm a psychopath or I only watch WWE. I don't like AEW, or the other way around, and I'd like to add something else. And then they just totally blew it because the show was terrible and the production was in the fucking gutter. And I talked about that when I reviewed the first 4 or 5 weeks of the show before I had to tap the fuck out. And it was just a massive whiff and a massive missed opportunity. They weren't ready for the moment. You can't help that you don't have stars, right? Like it's going to be almost impossible for TNA to create a star, pay for a star in free agency. And if they do happen to create a star, it's going to be impossible for TNA to retain a star, right? And when I say a star, a legitimate business changing star. So they can't really help from that standpoint.
Yeah.
I think what they were in total control of, though, was the quality of the product, the production, those things they have control of. And they whiffed on both counts. And they had an opportunity to capture the attention of wrestling fans who didn't have access to them for years and maybe hadn't even seen TNA in a long time. And when people turned on the first month of that show, what they saw was a dollar store version of hokey ass, embarrassing pro wrestling, the likes of which that we just talked about. And they said, I don't need more hokey ass, embarrassing pro wrestling in my life when A, there aren't even any stars involved, and B, the production looks like this. So it's I pick on TNA a lot. I would like nothing more than a quality TNA that's fun to watch and good. Who wouldn't want that? We'd all watch it. But they blew the opportunity in every sense. And now they're just kind of existing on AMC. They're going to do whatever it is, 150,000 viewers, a 0.02, and they're going to do that into perpetuity because there's no reason for anybody to watch that show. And it's self-inflicted within the things that they could have controlled.
TNA would be a much better exercise if the product was good. Like if the product was like good and they were really struggling, I think.
Or they presented something different to fill a niche that didn't exist.
But it would be more indicative of like this issue of getting people on board to a weekly wrestling product. Because like even though TNA is good and doing interesting and entertaining stuff, they're still struggling. But the fact that the product is bad gives like there's no real value because it's like, well, no one's gonna watch it because it sucks. And the number one issue TNA had with this whole relaunch was the association of TNA being like this incompetent, second-rate, clown shoes organization. And they worked extremely hard to fulfill that perception with their first episode and subsequent decisions and moves.
Yeah. And I mean, the second and third episode were slightly better than the first, but
couldn't have been if they were trying, Joe.
Right.
They couldn't have done it more.
In typical TNA fashion, the first one happened to be abysmal and had people just continuing to laugh at them because it's an uphill battle to begin with. And
if you got me, and Mike Gilbert to write a parody like bad TNA episode of television, it would be less accurate than what they actually produced.
Yeah, it was awful, and it set the tone.
And one of the I can't with Carlos Silva in his not the 2000s pitcher Carlos Silva, TNA
Definitely
Carlos
not.
Silva,
Correct.
Like the insistence on like provoking the AEW fans, and like you have the relationship with WWE, maybe that helped them with the TV deal, whatever, that's fine. But the antagonism towards AEW, like they're trying to run us out of business, they're trying to do this. Like when you saying that, when your typical AEW fan is far, far more likely to give your product a chance than the typical WWE fan. Some of the worst decision making we've seen in wrestling in the last decade.
Well, I think he was counting on the WWE association to mean the opposite.
Yeah, that's stupid. WWE fans, like your typical dyed-in-the-wool WWE fan, thinks TNA is a joke and thinks all wrestling that's not, Vince McMahon's form of wrestling is dumb.
Yeah, or they're just seeing it the WWE fans that TNA was attracting, and I'm not even sure they're attracting them anymore, were the super hardcores who weren't even being super served by WWE's mountain of content, but were never going to watch AEW and wanted more. And because there was that association and they just have this thirst for more wrestling, they were dabbling in TNA. But that was only going to last so long when when the WWE representatives in TNA are the lowest of the lowest level NXT people that Shawn Michaels just isn't interested in booking right now. How much Ariana Grace does someone need?
Yeah.
So you're right. It would have behooved them to present an alternative type of product that didn't look like Temu WWE to maybe attract the underserved AEW fan
Yeah,
or the
I'm not even talking
underserved
about the
wrestling
type
fan.
of product you're presenting. I'm just talking about like the public animosity
Yeah, that too.
that your AEW
Yeah.
fans are going to be more aware of, that Carlos Silva is talking shit about them and MJF is clapping back, and all these stories that make TNA look petty and bad. It keeps people who are, big AEW fans, who those people are far more likely to, like, if, Slammiversary's in my city this week, I think it's this weekend. Like, I wouldn't go to it because the show is bad, but like, it's like, if it was in a different space, I'm like, yeah, I'll go see Slammiversary. I'm not a regular TNA viewer, but wrestling's coming to my city. I might as well watch it. Like, I'm far more likely to do that as an AEW fan. I mean, they're running the building that AEW runs all the time. So I was not happy about the Harry Aganis slander that was taking place on the flagship a couple weeks ago.
Never heard of him.
I don't expect you guys to have heard of him, but you guys, I was like, people, like, if you can't think of something, like us with the New Japan November pay-per-view, people are screaming at their phones or whatever. I was in my car and I was driving listening to this, and you guys are like, Harry Aganis, I don't know who he is. He just donated some money. I'm like, Harry Aganis is one of the finest athletes to ever come out of Massachusetts. And you guys like, yeah, looks like his career was over in 1948. Yeah, and he probably just, he probably got a job working somewhere at the mill or something like that. And I was like, he died, you son of a bitches.
He died tragically, you piece of shit. No, but I mean, look, the other aspect of this Silva thing you're talking about, which was, look, wrestling fans are so tribalistic that he's instantly making himself and his promotion the enemy of the state to the hardcore AEW fan, which is not a wise business move. That's
kind of my point, is that these are fans that like wrestling, that are willing to watch non-WWE product and might be interested in seeing some of your talent. I mean, two of your biggest stars are ex-AEW guys, and Frankie Kazarian and Mike Santana. Like,
it was not, you don't want to make tribal fans your enemy. Yeah, you don't want to do that. And, you also don't want to poke the bear of the 48th wealthiest person in the United States when he already came in and, signed your, not that it's a huge deal, but it was definitely an intentional statement when he signed your Knockouts Tag Team Champions a week before you debuted on TV and stole them out from under you. I mean, he was sending a message there. I mean, Tony Khan does not want to employ the Iconics. He hasn't used them since he squashed them on TV week one. They're rotting away in ROH and doing indie work.
I actually saw them on ROH because they made it to a GIF on ROH where they were in some sort of like boob battle with Mina Shirakawa, I think,
great.
and one other person.
Awesome. That'll get me to re-up Honor Club.
What was really funny was that was going around Blue Sky, and like someone in the comments was like, and people wondered why Tony Khan would want to sign the Iconics. It's called printing money. And that's the kind of stuff that always makes me that stuff always makes me laugh, because look, we're used to like dunking on the WWE fans for being dumb.
Yeah.
But there is this whole part of like AEW fandom, and we sometimes see them like in the Discord, but it bothers me maybe more than it bothers you. Like, people just say things that they hear people say, but like they clearly don't understand the business or anything. Right, it's the same way people overuse the term buried. People overuse the term like jobbed out or that kind of thing. And I was like, do you guys actually like they might be listening to the flagship and they might be like, following me or something on social media, but they don't like really understand the business, but they regurgitate the terms. And I feel like that's always kind of a funny element of pro wrestling fandom to see.
Well, there's also the hypocritical AEW fan where they'll bury some bad bathroom toilet, hacky, whatever kind of humor that WWE will present. But if it comes from the ironic minds of the Young Bucks or something, all of a sudden it's funny and acceptable. Like, there's so much hypocrisy when it comes to that kind of stuff too.
Well, if anything is done by people that you view more favorably, you're going to appreciate the action.
Not on my show, buddy. I'm an equal opportunity barrier. I don't give a shit where it's coming from.
Yeah, I would say that's probably fairly accurate.
If it stinks, it stinks. But there's a lot of AEW fans who
I'm just saying that's natural inclination.
Yeah, sure. I'm not saying it isn't normal, but it's it's funny to see that though, because like this Leo Rush stuff is a great example. I mean, this would be getting buried under the earth if WWE was.
I didn't mind. I don't really mind the Leo Rush stuff in a vacuum. I thought his performance on Dynamite was horrible.
Yeah,
I thought the whole slowing down that match and like Andrade like doing the how you know and like Leo Rush like he knows and I'm like they did that like 100 times. I was like this is
and
like
it didn't even make sense. Like it wasn't even in context of like it was just a horrible set. Yeah. Look, it was ripped right from a Vince Raw.
Yeah. No, I was watching that. I was like this is the WWE shit.
Yeah.
That people talk about. But people also use that term a lot like WWE shit. Like this was like a few months ago but it was I think it was like MJF was champion. He came out and he cut a heel promo, and then like something else. And someone's like, "This show's been nothing but WWE shit," and it's like cutting a heel promo is not WWE shit, okay?
Yeah.
But like a heel starts an episode of Dynamite, and people act like they're watching Reign of Terror Triple H again.
Right. The old 20-minute promo to open the show.
Yeah, it's like that's not.
Well, that does speak to a larger conversation of we have failed to find new ways to present American television wrestling. I mean that from that aspect.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a true statement. But yeah, then it the nuance.
Look, sometimes I guess my point is like sometimes like you can come out with a I tend to like Dynamite when it starts more with a wrestling match.
Yeah,
but like sometimes you can start with a talking promo. It's not the end of the world if that happens.
Right.
But if you're watching live and you're in a watch party, sometimes it's a race to have the biggest reactions and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And what social media and what Twitter and Blue Sky in particular, those forms of social media, as we all know, it becomes when you're someone who's a regular tweeter or whatever they call a tweet on Blue Sky, it becomes a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
And you're just tweeting everything that pops into your brain.
You're not tweeting it like it's not like a message board post where you'd be more well thought out.
Yes, and you're willing to halfway through a paragraph say this isn't going where I thought, or I might have just changed my own mind, so I'm going to just hit backspace and not post this. That's not how Twitter or Blue Sky or if you're on Threads for some reason operate. It's just here's a thought, I'm going to put it out into the world, and then I'm going to crack my knuckles and wait for the endorphins of
especially
of
if you're
people hitting like.
live tweeting, live posting something.
Yeah.
Like I always say, like Discord is a great app for live conversation. It is not good for like scrolling back and like seeing thoughtful conversation for the most part.
Louis C.K. said years ago that Twitter is like you're just saying things like you would, like you just except that now it's there forever. Like you just said a thing, like it's no different than just.
Yeah.
But with that, it's there forever. So just think about that. It's kind of
he should have done some more thinking. But anyway, that's pretty much all my thoughts. Lanza, you're locked into the World Cup so far.
I've been locked into the World Cup. Yeah.
I know you're a soccer.
Well, listen, there's been 3 games. It hasn't been that hard to keep up with so far.
Here's the thing. As someone that likes daytime sports. Yeah. As much as you do.
I love day ball.
This is the World Cup is great. And we'll start picking up with more games as we're going forward. I thought yesterday was very strange that we had like a 1:00 game and a 9:00 game.
Awesome.
But I will say our 10:00 game, start 10:00 Eastern time. That's South Korea.
Czechia.
South Korea, why can't Czechia game?
Yeah.
And like I was like kind of like at the time I was like, oh, that's weird that they're doing this time like this. But like as someone I had stuff to do on I had my UNC basketball league on Thursday night, my 30 and up men's basketball league. We won, by the way, not gonna lie. But I had that going on. And I got home at like 9:30. I took a shower and I was like, all right, time to watch some late night World Cup. And I was like, this fucking rules. And it helped that game was much more entertaining than the first game. But I was like, long live this late night game.
No, it's great. Yeah. Meaningful sports on at all hours is awesome.
Yeah. We'll see. This I think that this is going to be like this with the 48 teams, there's going to be way more volume of games hitting. I think there's 104 games, I think, in total. So we're gonna get this is like March Madness level volume we're gonna get.
Mhm.
And I do think as we're going forward, we're going to be shifting more towards a March Madness model where there's kind of just like a game on from like noon to like 12:30
Yeah.
a.m.
There's going to be 4 games a day starting in 2 days, I think.
Yeah. So there's going to be no shortage of it, and it is coming during a time period of pretty low sports outside of baseball. Um, which
Yeah.
is great.
That's all that's happening.
I'm going to Iraq versus Norway on Tuesday. Um, which I expect to not be a pretty close game. Not be a close game. I think Norway's going to walk them, but it'll be fun.
Are you going as a fan, or did you try to finagle some media from your paper to
I
cover it from some
unfortunately did
hokey
not
angle?
get. I was actually told that there was a real chance we were going to get media passes for this.
Yeah.
Because the company I work for, they they're very good with like concerts and stuff like that. I have a colleague who gets to go to like all these concerts.
Yeah.
And cover them. They like that kind of like they like the SEO. You can put in Bruce Springsteen's name in the SEO and drive traffic.
Yeah,
And so like
yeah.
even if it's not necessarily directly related to like our coverage area.
Right.
So we tried but didn't get it. I don't know. I can only imagine it's a total circus and mess trying to get working with FIFA and US Soccer.
I'm sure.
And all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I can't even imagine. So and it was really they just asked, hey, do you want to go? And I filled out an application, sent them a picture of my press pass. Otherwise, I would be like living at Gillette Stadium, aka Boston Stadium, for this World Cup, and I would be reporting from the field. And that was like my dream. But
Yeah.
my sister got tickets for $150 each. She got in the lottery for this game, so not breaking the bank, which is
That's not bad at all.
yeah, no, I wouldn't have spent like a tons of money on this. It's really the parking is going to be a total shit show and things like that. But I will be going to a game. USA plays tonight. We're playing our mortal enemies, Paraguay. I do like that, like the randomness of the countries that we're playing, and just this is the fun part of the World Cup, which is like just thinking about two countries that have like really no relationship with one another, and now they're in like this heated rivalry against each other. It's kind of nice, and like the other like international hockey, like we kind of know who the main enemies and powers are. Like we're gonna be playing Canada, we're gonna be playing Russia, we're gonna be playing Sweden, we're gonna be playing Finland. Like that, we kind of know who are. In basketball, it's kind of the same thing, right? Right, it kind of changes over time. Right now, it's France, but in the past, it's been like Spain and Australia. Like soccer, it just kind of becomes random, where it's like we got to think way more about Paraguay. People in America this week are gonna think way more about Paraguay than they ever have before in their lives. That's kind of funny.
Only USA. This is like even odds as I'm looking at this game.
USA Paraguay.
Yeah.
I don't. The team USA is like. I'll be interested in seeing. I think they have a wide variety of outcomes. They could. An outcome exists where they're extremely disappointing and don't make it out of the group stage. That is a possibility.
Or final 8.
I think. I think if they make the round of 16, that'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's probably their ceiling. A lot of it depends on matchups and stuff like that. It depends on how big, historically in soccer, home field advantage in the World Cup has helped a lot. We've seen a lot of host nations overachieve. How big of a factor is that going to be for Team USA? It depends on who they play. Like I think they'll have a pretty distinct home advantage against Paraguay, but if they play, let's say, Brazil, there'll be just as many Brazilians rooting for Brazil or Brazilian Americans rooting for Brazil as there are Americans. So we'll see. The French national soccer team is practicing about a mile from my house. And I went by today or yesterday, and I saw all these fans lined up outside the college that they're practicing at, and they're all holding jerseys, wanting the French guys to sign them. And it was interesting to see like people that you would never think would come to my hometown are suddenly there. And I was like making jokes that we're gonna see like Kylian Mbappe at the local bar and see them at Stop and Shop or whatever is kind of funny.
Is Zidane going to score some goals for France this time around in the?
No, Zidane is retired. I hate to break it to you, Joe.
Okay. All right. Well.
He famously retired. His last act in football was headbutting that Italian guy.
Really? That was it for him. The headbutt.
That was his final game as a professional.
Oh,
because he announced beforehand, like the World Cup is my last. After the World Cup, I'm officially retiring. And despite being one of the game's great players, although extremely overrated, like Kobe Bryant style by fans, by the way.
Oh,
that's a lot of people are gonna get mad at me for saying that, but it's true. Like an extremely cool player to watch, not necessarily like was probably less productive of a player than people think. Um, but
Well,
yeah, he disgraced himself with that headbutt.
he's no Totti from my homeland. I can tell you
Francisco
that.
Totti. Yeah, well,
Yes.
unfortunately, Team Italy missed their flight and they're not going to make the tournament.
Yeah, I was glancing over the schedule and I didn't see when they were set to kick off, and I was very disappointed by
You
that.
guys should really
So
hop on the
yeah,
Argentina bandwagon because I mean, the people that Argentina is just all
it's all the
Italians.
time. Manu Ginobili, is all Italian.
They're just as Italian as American Italians.
Yes, it's like being in
So
Union County, New Jersey, being in Argentina,
yeah,
basically.
I mean, if you look at
Yeah,
the Union County, I mean, look at the last names in the Argentina team, and it's
that's it. Bunch of wops.
yeah.
Well, not technical. Well, maybe they don't have papers either. I guess
Ooh,
you could be a wop in Argentina, right?
interesting.
It's
Could
true.
Argentinians beat WAP? One
Yeah,
time,
why
one
not?
time, we were at I was at a local establishment, a bar and grill kind of place, and we were waiting for a table. And me and my dad were talking about college basketball, and my dad said something about John Calipari, and I said, "Oh, Dad, that's not John Calipari, that's Rick Pitino." And my dad goes, "Eh, that other WAP coach."
Ooh,
And
your
like this
father's canceled.
a very Italian looking man turned around and gave my dad like the stink eye.
Yeah, that is yes.
This
He's
is
canceled.
before I found out that we were Italian.
Oh,
Because as
yeah,
you
you
know, Lanza, I recently found out I was
you
Italian
did
from some
recently find that out.
Ancestry.com work that
Yeah,
I'm like 5% Italian. So,
yeah,
but this is before we knew that. Otherwise, we would have just said, "Hey, we're Italian. We can say that," just like you did right there.
that's right. So, but your dad is now canceled. I just want you to know that.
Uh, yeah. I mean, that's tough. He's
It's
canceled.
over for him.
I
Yeah,
think you can say that. Can you say WAP?
I mean, it's uncouth at worst and offensive at best, I
Like,
guess.
has anyone been canceled for saying WAP though?
Probably not. I mean, the thing about Italians
Or
is we don't.
Guinea? Is there a worse?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Guinea. You're not really not supposed to say it.
Yeah.
Like you have okay. So in Italian American culture, you do have this very small subset of Italian Americans who do get irrationally offended by shit like that. It's the same group of people who think that Martin Scorsese shouldn't make mob movies and that The Sopranos was very damaging to, the image of Italian Americans, the glorification of the mob. Like there
That's
is
what
that.
Sal Palatonio thought.
Yeah, in fact, there's actually a subplot in The Sopranos of those kinds of Italian
Yeah.
Americans, which is kind of a send up of that whole thing. So but they're not a large enough or loud enough group to really truly cancel anyone for that shit because the rest of us are just like, lighten up. Nobody gives a shit. Calm down. It's not a big deal. We mock ourselves. How can we do more damage? How can these people do more damage than we do to ourselves? I mean, just
Yeah,
leave
I
it
just
alone.
think you're just like
We're silly people. We're a
well, like
silly people.
on like the Irish end, like I don't know, like you just like can't get upset about it. Like
You
it's
can't get upset about it.
100% not offensive, and like Irish people would be like, "Whoa, there was a time where the Irish people in this country were subjugated." I'm like, "Yeah, that was like 175 years ago."
That's what that small group of Italian Americans like to play too.
Yeah.
And it's like,
The
I don't know,
Italians
man.
weren't like in 1910 when they came over. I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago, and like
You're just a white guy now. You're not oppressed in any way. You
now
can't.
every elected official in Massachusetts is either Irish or Italian. So
yeah,
I
what are
think
you
we
doing?
got past that.
Yeah, you've risen up the power scale now. It's you can't play that card, but they try. They try to play the card.
The lucky unlucky charms is offensive.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. If someone called me a Mick, I wouldn't be objected. I would
Right. You know what? That's the perfect answer to the question you just asked.
It would sound ridiculous if someone
It would
did
sound ridiculous if someone called me a guinea and I was like looking up their social media to get them fired from their job. Like it would never. Like I don't. Who cares?
So and so called me a guinea, and people are like, yeah, you can't really get mad about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Will, were you wearing a white
Were you wearing a wife beater? Were you
Wife
wearing
beater.
the guinea tee? The
Yeah.
guinea tee is what you're trying to say, but you're afraid because you're afraid I'm going to cancel
No,
you.
I was gonna say wife beater, but I was trying to think of like what you would call a wife beater without actually using the word wife beater.
Guinea tee. Do you never heard that term? So that's because that was like the uniform of your typical early 20s Italian American
So
guy.
I live just outside this neighborhood. I don't officially live in what would be called Nonantum, otherwise known as the Lake in Newton, Massachusetts, but I live like a stone's throw away, a couple streets over, really. And it is a historic Italian American neighborhood. And they have they have the Italian butcher shop, the Italian pastries, the Italian, everything's Italian. The businesses are all Italian, all stuff like
Yeah.
that. And they famously painted the lines in the road, instead of them being yellow, they painted them green, white, and red, like the
Yeah.
Italian flag.
Well,
And
you can't meet an Italian person in the Northeast without them telling you they're Italian within 5 minutes of the conversation. So
yeah,
that makes a
okay,
lot of sense.
I'm glad you brought that up, Joe, and I'm glad we're still recording so I can discuss this with you.
Yeah.
You said
Uh,
on air, nobody is like more interested in telling you that they're Italian than Italian people. And I think
Yeah.
you said Mexicans were the other one. It was Italians and one other group of people.
I don't think if I said it was another group, I don't think I would have said Mexican.
It was
But
either Mexicans or Puerto Ricans.
maybe Puerto Rican. Yeah. Well, where I come from in New Jersey, there's a lot of proud Puerto Ricans that are like proud on the Italian
I
level.
take
Yes.
huge exception to that because and I find this hard to believe because you're from New Jersey. Have you never met a Greek person in your entire life?
I've met some Greeks. They used to run all of the diners in New Jersey
Yes.
until diners stopped being a thing. Yes.
Greeks love telling you that they're Greek.
They do. They're also,
It's huge. On the dating apps, if there's a Greek girl, she includes that she'll put the Greek flag on there. They love telling you that they're Greek.
Shima even married a Greek person, and he is super proud of being married to a Greek woman. So it flows straight, by osmosis.
Greeks. Locally, Armenians are big on telling you that they're Armenian. I don't know how many Armenians you really know, but I live in like the epicenter of Armenia. Here, so I think there are many more people that like to tell you that they're super proud of them.
All right, I think
I see what you're going with. Italians and Puerto Ricans definitely like to tell you that.
Yeah. Dominicans are big on that.
In a way, like German Americans are not going to be talking about.
Exactly. Like these groups that we're naming are way more likely to let you know what they are when you meet them than someone who's Dutch. Like they're not ever going to tell you.
The best is that they like, oh, and by the way, I'm so and so, and like if they're people that you're around a lot, like that they're them. Like you actually didn't need to tell me that you're Greek.
You didn't. No, right. It's very obvious, sir. Very obvious that you're Italian. You just bought gabagool. You were in front of me at the grocery store. You got cannolis in the other hand.
People will tell you their name and then they'll say like, my name is Leo Theodorakis, and like I'm Greek, and I'm like, I actually knew that.
Yeah.
My name's Tony Lasagna. I'm Italian. Okay, thank you, Tony.
Tony Lasagna. See that now? I should be offended by that. Lasagna.
I knew somebody whose name was Tony Lasagna.
Lasagna.
Yes.
Lasagna.
Yes, I'm not making that up.
That that would be like, if I were a Chinese guy and you were like, oh, I met some guy, his name was Jimmy General's Chicken. Like you can't just say Tony Lasagna. I should be offended by that.
That was his name, Anthony Lasagna.
Yeah, all right. Sure.
I mean, just Mike Piazza's name is basically Mike Pizza.
Again, see? You would never say to a Chinese guy, oh,
that's the actual name.
No, your last name. Oh, that may as well be Chow Mein. You can't do that. You can't do that, Jesse. You can't sit here and besmirch in this way. I see what you're Lanza, Lasagna. You're trying to be a wise guy here.
No, I'm not. I didn't even think about that. Honestly, I know your last name is Italian, but it's not like that high on the stereotypical Italian scale.
Yeah. Well, Mario Lanza, different pronunciation.
Yeah, if you pronounce it a little bit, it changes a little bit. But like, I would say like Dante DiVincenzo. That's like a 10 out of 10 Italian. Stereotypical Italian.
But see, he'll still tell. I guarantee you, he'll still tell you he's Italian. That's the thing. Like he's gonna still tell you that.
I'm Italian. Yeah, you're right. I'm Italian. Yeah, thank you, Dante. I actually didn't know that.
Like if you go on a date with him, he's gonna bring it up. Like he's that guy. He doesn't have to, but he's gonna tell you. And forget it, if he meets another Italian, then that's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah. French Canadians like telling you they're French Canadian, too.
And again, they don't need to. The more people who don't need to. Like, I got
honestly,
it, Rick Martel. You really don't need to.
Yeah. Any place that's like there's a lot of people that I grew up around of, I feel like they were pretty big on telling you that.
Yeah.
All right. Joe, do you have anything you want to plug? I know you just made an appearance on the Super J-Cast. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, I did. I went on their one of their paywall shows. So I think it's on their $10 tier. You could buy it a la carte for $3. I did Damon's Unmasked series. He's doing casual style interviews with wrestling adjacent people. So it's not a lot of wrestling talk at all. It's more us shooting the shit and pulling back the curtain on podcasting and just talking shop on podcasting and my background in podcasting and some of my podcasting theories. He basically just gave me an hour to talk about myself, which was, I wasn't sure if I was into the idea of talking about myself for an hour, Jesse, but he twisted my arm and he got me to do it, and it's getting some excellent reviews. So if you just can't get enough of JL, you can get more of me for $10 or $3 on their Super J Cast paywall.
Are you going to get a cut of any of that money? If they because the $3 buy-in, you could definitely.
I'll tell you what,
that was definitely you that drew those people in, right? The $10 you can, make you could argue that it was, the overall Super J Cast product that people are paying for. But that $3 like a la carte kind of purchase, you better be getting a percentage of that gate, brother.
First of all, I always pop a number when I come on any of these shows. But I told him after he turned off the recording, I said, I'm gonna pop a house here, right? You understand that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well that's why I invited." So I get this text message this morning, and quote, also, thank you for popping the house, brother. The largest buy now show since we started Patreon. End quote. I'm a ratings mover, Jesse. You know this so well.
You got to be getting that like late career Bruno Sammartino deal where he was getting like 35% of the house or something like that.
I don't want to taste. I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I listen, you guys are all my friends. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to come here and pop the house for Super J Cast Patreon and also Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast. No problem. I'm doing another podcast next week. I don't know if that's been announced. I'm going to keep that under wraps, but I'm trying to get out there more. And
I will say this, you no one can take away, Joe, that you make the towns.
I make the towns and I pop the house. And that's really what it's all about.
You're like one of those, I remember I think it was Chris Jericho in one of his books. He talks about being in Smoky Mountain Wrestling and talking, and like the Rock and Roll Express were there, and the Rock and Roll Express just told a bunch of stories, but every single one of the stories was about how they came to a town and popped a house. Like no matter it started, it always ended with that they popped a house.
Absolutely. Look, I just read you a direct quote that I popped the house. So there you go. You watch the numbers on this fucking thing. You'll see. People love the JL.
I know some people that will actually dispute that.
Well, yeah, not all the people love the JL. But you know what? They listen too. Hate listens count just as much in the download counts. It's all the same.
I never listen to people I dislike on podcasts.
Oh, people love to do that though.
Like when like Simmons or someone I'm a regular podcast listener to has like a guest I don't care about. Like I'm not gonna like listen to Ariel Helwani on the Bill Simmons podcast.
Right. Just so you could be mad at it, right?
Yeah. Like I'm not tuning into 83 weeks to find out what Eric Bischoff has to say. Like so much better uses of my time.
Well, it's the old Howard Stern theory. Half the audience loved me, half the audience fucking hated me, but they all listened. Right.
Well, they have to respect you to a degree. I guess.
That's true. And you have no respect for Ariel Helwani.
No, none at all. Among the people I would have the least amount of respect for working in media.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Wrestling Omakase brings you a full-course meal of all of Japanese wrestling, men's and women's. Join me, a Japanese wrestling fan for over 20 years, along with a rotating cast of equally knowledgeable co-hosts, as we cover everything from New Japan and Stardom to Noah, All Japan, DDT, Tokyo Joshi, Mari Gold, Sendai Girls, Dragon Gate, GLEAT, Ice Ribbon, and even more stuff. If you're a fan of Japanese wrestling and you want coverage of the entire scene in one podcast, check us out right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network each and every week. Get us wherever you get podcasts today.